Dear students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. Today in this module, we will be discussing about source reduction. Now let's look into the learning objectives of this module. Now in this module, we will familiarize about the concept or definition of source reduction. Then we will understand the effects of source reduction. We will see what are the source reduction planning, and finally we will gain knowledge on the different source reduction strategies. Now source reduction, it is also known as waste prevention. The purpose of source reduction is that it will decrease the amount and toxicity of any material that requires management through prevention at the source. Source reduction comes under resource management rather than waste management. Source reduction is different from other solid waste management practices because it eliminates the need of waste management. It can be achieved by the following methods. 1. By reducing or eliminating the amount and toxicity of a material used in manufacturing or packaging sectors. Second, it can be done by redesigning a product so that its lifespan can be increased and its reusability and repairability can be increased. Third, it will also encourage purchasing of those products that will have minimum residual toxicity on the environment as well as on the living beings. Fourth, to change the pattern of consumption and material usage in a way so that it will minimize the amount and toxicity of waste generation. Now let us discuss about the effects of source reduction. Now source reduction possesses two benefits. It possesses economic as well as environmental benefits. Overall, if you see, source reduction will reduce the pollution load, it will minimize the cost of waste management, and also it will minimize the cost of disposal. Actually, if you see, source reduction ends up in changing the entire composition of the solid waste material. Now let us discuss about the various economic benefits that are associated with source reduction. Now source reduction reduces the cost of solid waste management through reduction in the quantity of waste, and as it avoids the purchase cost and generates revenue from resale of items. Now a substantial saving can be achieved when an item is repaired and reused. For example, if you talk about using reusable utensils and dishwashers will minimize or avoid the need of disposable products. Now regular maintenance increases the lifespan of a product, thereby it minimizes the cost of disposal or replacement. Sometimes if you rent or share a material, that again will decrease the disposal and it will also avoid the purchase cost of a particular item. An example for this is a computer that has become outdated and that does not serve any other purpose to the owner can be leased to other company who need them. Material exchange also helps in source reduction. Waste products of one industry can be used as a raw material of another. An example for this would be the garage. In a garage, if you see, the items that are not required are generally sold out to generate revenue. Many industries save money by reducing packaging material, minimizing waste generation during manufacturing process, and by using scrap materials in the manufacturing process. Paperless communication, electronic mail also reduces the use of paper, and it also minimizes paper manufacturing, and it reduces paper recycling cost and disposal cost. Now let us discuss about the various environmental benefits that are associated with source reduction. Now source reduction reduces the requirement of natural resources. It reduces the requirement of energy and it minimizes the pollution load. It also reduces the amount of waste that is to be sent to the processing or the disposal site. It also minimizes the greenhouse gas emissions. Now greenhouse gas emissions generally occur during the mining of raw materials, transport and manufacturing and disposal of waste residue. Example, during the lifespan of paper, greenhouse gases are emitted during cutting of trees, combustion of paper and during their disposal. The level of greenhouse gas emissions from the waste material is very uncertain and hence you cannot quantify them. Collection of these beverage containers, the cans and water bottles and depositing them to the company will again reduce the litter and the collection cost. At times, the environmental benefits of source reduction show negative consequences too. For example, using a repaired old electronic appliance might cause an increased power consumption. I mean, energy consumption can be more for old electronic appliances. Similarly, if you avoid disposable items, it might increase the usage of water for cleaning utensils, plates and other cups. Now, water is being wasted. In addition to that, a lot of organic and suspended solid load enters into the stream, wastewater stream. Life cycle assessment can help in determining the actual impact that the solid waste management system actually creates on the environment. The quantity and composition of solid waste is greatly determined by the habits of a community. Switching to a lighter package material or choosing a packaging material that can be easily recycled will also result in change in the composition of a waste. For example, source reduction in packaging industries like the weight of aluminum cans used in beverage packing is reduced by almost 52% in the last decades. This has been achieved due to source reduction plan or source reduction strategy which has been applied to these industries. Now, source reduction can also be done through material substitution. For example, aluminum cans can be replaced with these PET bottles. Now, let us discuss about a source reduction planning. To formulate an effective source reduction program, planning is very essential. A planner should have an idea about the following things: what needs to be reduced, second, how much reduction you need to achieve, and third, the method for measuring the results of source reduction. Now, an effective planning can be done under an independent leadership, authority, adequate staffing and appropriate budget. An infrastructure is essential for supporting the source reduction program. The first step in planning will be to formulate a policy with a clear definition of terms. As I mentioned earlier, source reduction does not mean only a management plan, it is a resource management actually. So, formulating a policy with clear definition of terms and source reduction, the differentiation from recycling and other waste management options should be done. You should know the difference between source reduction and recycling. The second step would be you have to set a goal to establish the management strategies. This will help you in evaluating the progress of a source reduction plan. Now, the 4 steps are used to set up a goal and establish a management strategy. 1. Set up a source reduction goal with certain specification. Like for this, you should know the details of a baseline year, target year, nature of reduction that should be specified here. Now, the second step would be to formulate separate goals for waste that is being generated from different sources. A separate goal for the waste that is generated from a residential source, a separate goal for that is being generated from a commercial source, and likewise for industrial and institutional sources. One more thing which you have to keep in mind while formulating separate goals for various generating sectors is like you can also have a separate goal for each material, like for paper, glass, plastic. For each of them you can have a separate goal, and also the separate goal can also be made based on the product, like cardboard boxes can have a separate goal, newspapers can have a separate goal, and so on and so forth. The third step would be to select the measurement unit. How are you going to see or measure the source reduction progress? So, the measurement unit that is to be used for source reduction program, like the weight, volume should be decided and mentioned before. Selection of a suitable measurement methodology. What is the method that you are going to use for measuring the progress? The success of a source reduction is measured through waste audits, service, sales tracking and sampling. Now, let us discuss about what are the basic informations that is required for you to measure a source reduction progress. 1. You need a data on population. 2. You need the projection of population change. then employment data you need, index of economic activities and waste generation from residential and commercial area should be collected to formulate a good source reduction plan. Now, communities should also be aware about the type and nature of waste material that is to be disposed of. Now, again the composition of waste plays a major role. Now, let us discuss about the importance of the waste composition. A realistic goals are set based on the knowledge of the composition of waste stream. The community should be aware of the composition of the waste to get a better idea about the materials to be targeted for the source reduction. Now, waste audits can be used to determine the composition of a material, product and a generating sector. Example, if you talk about the yard waste, when they are burnt, they release a lot many compounds. Now, grass recycling and backyard composting can be done as a source reduction to minimize the problems associated with the yard waste. Now, as I mentioned earlier, administration and budget is again an important parameter in a source reduction program. The scope of source reduction is very wide when compared to recycling and other disposal options. Now, it involves resource management rather than waste management. It deals with producers, distributors, dealers and consumers. A successful source reduction plan can be drawn based on the decisions about the product and the packing materials used. Also, their composition and the way they are used also play an important role. Hence, source reduction always requires a skilled staff with a long term view about the use of materials in the society and the changes to be brought for efficient resource utilization with minimum waste generation. Source reduction planning requires an adequate budget like any other conventional waste management option. However, if you see, this is not as costly as waste collection and processing. The cost is generally involved in waste collection, waste auditing, technical assistance, education, equipment and legal issues. The expenditure cannot be inquired in the same budget here. A long term benefit can be attained through this source reduction if you spend on them. Now, the strategies for source reduction are: source reduction can be accomplished by a number of strategies. However, based on the Environmental Protection Agency, few examples we will look into. Reducing the amount of packaging material, reducing the amount of product, using packaging material that causes minimum damage or spoilage to the product, increasing the lifespan of the product to extend or postpone its disposal through regular maintenance and repairing, reusing existing material, products and packaging material are some of the examples which have been identified by the Environmental Protection Agency. Now, example of this can be reconditioning a toner cartridge or using a two-sided paper or using a reusable bottle can be some of the examples of. 6. Modifying or redesigning the product to reduce the quantity and toxicity of the material used. 7. Use of alternate materials, example, substitute lighter materials in packaging instead of heavier ones. An example for this would be like the source reduction strategy can be applied in a residential, commercial, institutional or industrial area and even in construction and demolition sources. Now, some examples we will see now. So, how to apply a source reduction planning or source reduction program in a residential area? Now, let us talk about the residential area. Now, according to reports of UC, around 55 to 65% of total municipal solid waste is generated from a residential sector and 30% of waste generation can be minimized through source reduction practices. A consumer should always be aware about the impact they create by generating solid waste and the measures they can undertake to have a positive impact. A consumer can purchase products in bulk to minimize the generation of a packaging material waste. Also, consumption of locally grown fruits and vegetables will minimize the transportation cost and preservatives used in eatables. The other thing can be purchasing products with high durability and long period of warranty can extend the time of disposal of the product. You can also use rechargeable batteries, reusable utensils which can save money and waste disposal cost. Reusing shopping bags and food containers can also result in source reduction. Renting or leasing an item can also serve as a source reduction technique. For example, if you rent a tool or a lawn mower or lease a computer, it will minimize the purchase of these materials. Using repaired appliances can also be an example of green product use. Now, grass cycling returns grass clippings to the lawn, and henceforth it will minimize the requirement of additional management or disposal. Now, xeriscaping again is one example of source reduction, where it reduces the water usage while landscaping. Also, this will help in reduction of your yard waste. Now, this table provides you what are the different purchasing strategies that you can use it in a residential area for achieving your source reduction. Now, if you see, to reduce the product uses, like you can use both the sides of a paper, and you can use emails and other modes to avoid paper consumption. Renting or leasing products or equipments or contract for services. You can rent tools, you can lease technological products like the computers, scanners, copiers, etc. The next one is purchased, manufactured, rebuilt or refurbished products. You can use contract services for cleaning, waste removal, printing, etc. Then you can you can use remanufactured laser toner cartridges, and you can also use refurbished furnitures. Purchasing more durable products. So, when you purchase something, you look for a product which is having an extended warranty or a long and extended life period. For example, the light bulbs, now you have this CFL LED bulbs have come. So, that is one example. Then purchasing products containing non-hazardous material. So, when you purchase something, look for green cleaning products, then water based paints and inks, and also reduced battery use. So, likewise you have a number of examples like through which these are some of the purchasing strategies which you can apply in a residential area for source reduction. Now, let us discuss about how to achieve source reduction in a commercial and an institutional area. Now, large quantities of paper, cardboard, plastics, food waste, electronic waste and many other hazardous waste are generated from a commercial and an institutional sources. Now, efficient use of paper, on-site food waste composting, use of reusable materials are some of the examples of source reduction initiatives that can be undertaken in a commercial and an institutional source. The source reduction strategies used in commercial and institutional areas can be classified into two main categories. One, changing procurement policies and modifying operations. Now, changing procurement policies might reduce the amount of waste generation. It might also encourage manufacturers to develop products and materials that can generate less waste, and also it can encourage recycling of goods. A policy should be formulated to favor the purchase of more durable, less toxic, reusable, repairable and refillable products. Some options for waste reduction through procurement policies can be: you can suggest companies to ship goods in reusable containers and take back the packaging materials after shipment. Then you can suggest purchasing goods with longer warranty period and service contracts. Then you can provide preferences for using equipment on a lease rather than purchasing them. Also, encouraging purchasing of items that can reduce use of paper, equipment and computer softwares that permit double side printing and faxing. Providing incentives for reusable, refillable and durable equipments can also be one sort of source reduction. The measures undertaken for source reduction during operation can include, like offices with lawn can perform on-site composting of their yard waste. Also, you can educate the employees to reduce the use of paper and also suggest them to use both side printing and photocopying. Sometimes you can reduce the paper usage by minimizing the number of copies and increasing the intensity of its usage. Alternatively, you can suggest them to use email, faxing, editing and other methods. Even while proofreading, if you suggest them to use careful proofreading, that will also minimize the use of printing, the use of paper and other things. So, this is again would be a source reduction initiative. Also sometimes the scrap paper can be used as a small flaps or memos and can also act as a strategy for reducing paper waste. Using reusable plates and utensils can minimize again waste from food service facilities. People can be encouraged by providing discounts for bringing their own plates and utensils. This can again serve as a source reduction initiative. Sometimes they can be charged with additional cost for using disposable items. Again, this will reduce the amount of waste that would be generated. Now, leasing computers can encourage manufacturers to produce easily upgradable computers. It also increases the responsibility of the manufacturers to maintain and take back the systems. Sometimes donating the computers to schools and non-profit organizations can also act as a very good source reduction strategy. Reusing and refilling packaging containers, then packaging materials can be returned back to the company so that it can be reused. Then the product can be redesigned in such a way so that it produces minimum waste generation. Then instead of using virgin materials, you can also use those materials that are collected from the material exchange program. So, these can be some of the initiatives at the commercial and the institutional sources. Now, this table summarizes the various consumer strategies for source reduction. Like for example, many of these I have already told you. If you see, like, to avoid unnecessary packaging material, you can choose items with least or no packaging material. Then you can purchase items in bulk or economic size packages or concentrates that will again minimize the unnecessary packaging material. Then you can adopt practices that can reduce waste toxicity, like you can use alternative cleaners that do not have hazardous compounds. You can use integrated pest management, which will minimize the pesticide usage. You can use digital thermometer instead of mercury. You can choose batteries with reduced mercury. Then you can use non-toxic inks, dyes and paints. Also you can use household hazardous waste collection. The next one would be consumer reusable products. For this you can use reusable cups, cleaning utensils and those things. Also you can use instead of these tissue papers, you can use cloth napkins and towels. Again, this will reduce the amount of waste generation. Then you can go for rechargeable batteries, and also you can go for refillable detergents. Likewise, you have a list of these items where instead of you can maintain and repair durable products instead of frequently changing them. Like when you buy tires for your vehicles, you can buy long lasting tires, or you can mend and repair clothes, footwears and bags instead of just throwing them. You can use long life fluorescent light bulbs. So, likewise you have many things which are listed in the table, which acts like a source reduction initiative. Now, analyzing the waste generated from specific industry may help an individual to redesign the project and manufacturing process to minimize waste generation. For example, identify that or those specific processes that is involved in waste generation and plan the source reduction strategy accordingly. So, this will reduce, reuse or avoid waste generation during the process. Most of the time what do we do is we substitute the material for the original one. You can reduce the weight of the material, marketing a product with minimum or no package, and produce a product that is more durable, reusable and repairable. Now, let us discuss about some of the source reduction strategies in a construction and a demolition site. Like any other municipal solid waste, construction and demolition waste are increasing in recent times. Some of the source reduction strategy can be you can minimize the construction and demolition waste by you plan a construction in order to meet the requirement, then use those material with minimum or no toxicity. You can purchase building materials with minimum packaging material and incorporate those materials which is having extended lifespan. Also you can use reusable products. So, maximize the recovery of material during. Likewise, when you demolish a building, you can maximize the recovery of a material by using the electrical circuits, plumbing material, all these can be recovered and reused or recycled. Likewise, doors and windows can be refinished and can be used in a new construction. Salvaging material can be stored in the water house and can be used in future. To summarize, at the end of this module, we have defined what is source reduction. We have also seen that source reduction is not a part of waste management, but it is resource management. Then we have discussed about the effects of source reduction, both the environmental and the economic benefits. Then we discussed about the various source reduction planning, how to achieve and what are the steps that are involved in formulating a proper source reduction program. Then we discussed about the source reduction strategies that can be used at a residential level, commercial and institutional level, and at the construction and the demolition sites. I am sure this module would be of a great help to you. Thank you.